Hello AmericansChannel. This video is made by free videos from Storyblocks, and these images and video we use just for explanation, and it's free use also.
Man finds a pig freezing during a snowstorm, but he then discovers that it wasn't alone. The wind howled like something feral. Raymond stood at the edge of his yard staring at the strange heaving mound half buried in the snow. It hadn't been there yesterday. It twitched. Then a sound rose up from it, not a whimper, not a growl, something in between. He took a cautious step closer, boots sinking deep into the drift. The shape shifted again. Ice cracked beneath his weight. Then another sound, this one sharper, wounded. Wrong. It echoed across the yard like it didn't belong to any creature he could name. Raymond stopped cold. He was 82 and utterly alone. The storm was picking up. Snow stung his face, blurred the trees, but he couldn't turn away. Something was down there under the snow, something alive, maybe dying, and no one else was coming. Raymond Carter had lived alone for 12 long winters in a crooked ivy-draped house at the edge of a quiet town folded into the countryside. Once a schoolteacher known for his dry wit and iron patience, Raymond had faded into a life of habit and silence after losing his wife Marlene more than a decade ago. At 82, he still mowed his lawn with a rattling push mower and insisted on hauling in his own firewood, even when his joints screamed in protest. He had no children, no close family left. Just a house full of old books, a temperamental radio, and a lifetime of memories that creaked louder in winter. Most nights were the same early dinners, slow sips of tea, and the hum of wind outside. Tonight, though, the weather was turning. A storm had been crawling across the region all day, and now it was nearly here. Raymond had checked the locks twice, sealed the windows, and stoked the fire high in the stove. Everything was ready. He had just sat on the edge of his bed, quilt pulled halfway over his legs, when the doorbell rang. The sound jolted him. He frowned, rubbing the ache in his knees as he stood. Visitors were rare these days, and even rarer after dark, especially with a snow warning in full effect. Raymond shuffled downstairs and opened the front door to find little Emma Hargrove standing on his porch, bundled in an oversized red coat, her cheeks flushed and eyes wide. "Emma?" he asked, surprised. "What on earth are you doing out in this weather?" "I saw something," she said quickly, glancing over her shoulder. "From my bedroom window, in your backyard. Something moving under the snow. I thought you should know." Raymond stared at her for a beat, trying to gauge the seriousness in her voice. She didn't look like she was joking. "Something moving," he echoed. She nodded. "It looked weird. I don't know what it was, but it's just lying there now. I think maybe it's stuck." A gust of wind swept between them, scattering a dusting of snow across the porch. Raymond rubbed the back of his neck, uneasy. "All right," he said finally. "Thanks for telling me, Emma. Get back inside now before your mother starts to worry." Raymond watched Emma scurry down the porch steps and disappear into the blowing snow, her small figure swallowed by the white. He shut the door behind him and leaned against it for a moment, listening to the wind howling through the trees outside. Something moving under the snow. He didn't like the sound of that. Still, curiosity mingled with an old instinct to protect nudged him into action. He slipped on his heavy coat, wrapped a scarf around his neck twice, and jammed a wool hat over his thinning hair. By the time he pulled on his gloves and stepped out into the cold, the storm had begun in earnest. The air hit him like a wall. Wind whipped sideways across the yard, and snowflakes danced furiously in the glow of the porch light. Each step down the icy path took effort, his boots crunching through the accumulating snow. The backyard stretched out like a pale sheet, soft mounds and darkened corners scattered beneath the trees. Raymond narrowed his eyes, trying to spot movement. At first, there was nothing. Just the rush of wind, the creak of branches, and the relentless quiet of winter. Then he saw it. Near the far fence, half buried in a drift, something twitched. He took a few slow steps forward. The shape was indistinct, but it was definitely there. An irregular bulge in the snow, barely visible but undeniably out of place. The part of it shifted again, too slow to be wind, too deliberate to be natural. Raymond's gut tightened. He kept his distance, circling slowly, trying to get a clearer view. The closer he came, the more his unease deepened. Whatever it was big. Bigger than a raccoon or fox, certainly not just some unlucky animal that had wandered into the wrong yard. Its back rose and fell in shallow, labored breaths. A faint muffled sound reached his ears, a kind of low grunting. He paused, blinking against the snow in his eyes. Raymond's pulse began to race, a cold line of sweat running down his spine. His first irrational thought was of bears. He lived in bear country after all. Could a young one have become disoriented and collapsed in his yard? But no, the shape wasn't right, the coloring too pale. And besides, what kind of bear would be out in the open like this in the middle of a storm? Still, the idea of getting closer made his body tense. He stood rooted to the spot, snow piling on his shoulders, staring at the strange form. Something about it didn't feel natural. Raymond inched forward, squinting through the thick curtain of snow. The lump by the fence was still half buried, motionless but somehow present. Not just an object, but something with weight, with heat. The closer he came, the more he could make out a ridge of bristled fur, patches of pale skin beneath, the barest rise and fall of breath. His boots crunched into a fresh drift, and suddenly the mound twitched. Raymond stopped dead. A low snort cut through the storm, muffled but unmistakable. He blinked. Snort? He took a cautious step closer, heart quickening. The animal's back rose slightly, revealing a rounded torso, coarse bristles wet and clumped from the snow. A faint odor reached him, a musty, earthy scent beneath the sharp cold. Another snort followed, louder this time, accompanied by a sluggish turn of the head. Small, wide-set eyes, a flat snout crusted with ice. Raymond squinted harder. A pig? He muttered aloud, stunned. You've got to be kidding me. It didn't make sense. There were no farms nearby anymore, at least none with loose livestock. And certainly no reason for a pig to be out in weather like this. Sure, pigs could survive in the cold, but this was different. This was deadly cold, wind chill in the negatives, snow piling fast. What on earth was it doing here? The pig shifted again, grunting softly, its thick body trembling with fatigue. It didn't rise, didn't even try. It simply stared at him with wary eyes, as if sizing him up, as if calculating whether he was friend or foe. Raymond glanced back toward the house. The wind had picked up even more, sending circles of snow swirling around his boots. This animal wouldn't last much longer not like this. Still, something about the way it stayed put, even now, unsettled him. Like it was waiting, or guarding something. He shook the thought away. No, just a pig, probably escaped from somewhere. Cold, weak, too tired to run. That was all, but the doubt lingered. Raymond took a final step, close enough now to hear the pig's shallow breathing. Then, cautiously, he crouched just slightly, just enough to get a better look at its face. The pig gave one more gruff snort but didn't move. Raymond exhaled slowly. He couldn't lift it, not in this state, not at 82. His knees already ached from crouching and his back had been giving him trouble for years. The pig might not resist, but that wasn't the problem. He turned and made his way back toward the house, snow stinging his cheeks and frustration building in his chest. Inside, Raymond closed the door behind him and leaned against it, breath unsteady, mind racing. Raymond grabbed the landline and dialed animal control. After several rings, a tired voice answered. Westbury Animal Services, this is Diane. He explained everything, how he'd been alerted by the neighbor girl, what he saw in the yard, the freezing conditions, the animal's size and stillness. Diane let out a long exhale. I'll be honest with you, sir. With this storm bearing down, the roads are barely drivable. We've suspended most pickups. But, she hesitated, I'll put in a dispatch request just in case someone's still nearby. The odds aren't good, but I'll try to get someone out. Raymond's hope flickered. That's all I ask. In the meantime, she added, if there's any way you can give it shelter or warmth, do what you can. If it's lying still, it's in trouble. Raymond frowned, glancing back through the window. It's not exactly going to be easy to move, he said. It's big, and I'm not as strong as I used to be. There was a pause. Then Diane replied, you don't have to lift it, sir. If it can still walk, try to lead it somewhere sheltered. He thanked her and hung up, staring at the receiver for a long moment before setting it down. Warmth, that was the key, but how exactly was he supposed to guide a half-frozen pig through a snowstorm? Still, he couldn't let it freeze. He had to try something. He scanned the kitchen. No hay, no heat lamps, this wasn't a barn, but maybe food could coax it. Pigs were smart, and pigs were greedy. He opened the pantry and rummaged through the bottom shelves. After pushing aside canned peaches and soup, he found an old jar of peanut butter. Thick, salty, strong-smelling. He remembered Marlene once saying pigs loved it. He wasn't sure if it was true, but it was worth a shot. Raymond grabbed the jar, a spoon, and an old aluminum pie tin. He smeared a hefty glob into the center of the dish, its scent already wafting into the warm kitchen air. Maybe, just maybe, it would follow the smell to shelter. He grabbed his flashlight again, bundled up in double layers, and stepped once more into the storm. The wind hit harder this time, slicing across Raymond's face and tugging at his coat like greedy fingers. He clutched the tin plate close, its shallow bed of peanut butter stuck to it like a piece of candy. The scent was already cutting through the cold, thick and distinct in the frigid air. Raymond moved carefully, retracing his earlier path across the yard. The snow had risen fast, his previous footprints had already vanished, erased like he'd never been out here at all. His flashlight beam bounced and swayed as he walked and finally landed on the motionless lump near the fence. Still there, still half buried, still watching. The pig hadn't moved since Raymond left. It looked even weaker now, hunched, shivering, glazed in ice. Snow had piled along its back, clinging to the bristles and rigid ridges. Only the subtle rise and fall of its chest gave any sign that it was still breathing. Raymond slowed, crouching a few feet away, and slid the tin of peanut butter into the snow. There you go, he murmured. It's warm inside, and dry. The pig's ears twitched. It didn't snort or grunt, just stared. Then a sound, not from the pig, a faint muffled whimper. Raymond stiffened. Another squeak, soft and strained, rose beneath the pig's body. He leaned slightly to the side, squinting through the wind. That's when he saw a flicker of movement beneath the pig's belly. A small quiver in the snow, as if something hidden underneath had stirred. Something alive. The pig shifted slightly, curling tighter around the form beneath it. For a second, Raymond glimpsed a smear of fur. Not the pig's. Something else? Smaller. It was guarding it. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. Whatever that creature was, the pig had kept it warm, shielded it with the last of its strength. It wasn't just surviving. It was saving something else. Raymond's heart thudded. He stood slowly and took several steps back toward the shed. Then he opened the door wide, laid out the old camping blanket, and waited. It didn't take long. The scent must have done the rest. He turned in time to see the pig lurch to its feet, trembling but determined. It staggered forward through the trail he cleared, pausing only once to glance back at the small hollow it left behind, then hobbled into the shed and collapsed on the blanket, utterly spent. Raymond wasted no time. He sprinted across the yard, dropped to his knees at the hollow, and began brushing snow away with both hands. The crust was packed and hard but not deep. Then his fingers found it. A patch of wet fur, a small curled body, trembling, still alive. He wrapped it in his scarf, cradled it against his chest, and carried it into the shed. The pig watched him, eyes half-lidded but tracking his every movement. He laid the bundle beside her. The little creature stirred barely and pressed into the warmth of the pig's flank. Raymond knelt there for a long moment, snow dripping from his coat, breath coming in clouds. They had made it this far. Now it was up to him to make sure they made it the rest of the way. The storm was relentless now, swirling like a living thing, clawing at Raymond's coat as he stumbled back toward the shed. Inside, the pig lay still, its massive body curled around the tiny trembling creature. The blanket beneath them was damp, but it offered some insulation from the frozen floor. Raymond dropped to his knees beside them, catching his breath. The frail little creature nestled into the crook of the pig's belly, its tiny limbs twitching, breath shaky but real. Its fur was thin, too thin for this kind of weather, and its bones felt like twigs under Raymond's fingers. This wasn't something he could handle alone. Not out here. Not tonight. He pulled his phone from his coat and dialed. The line rang once. Dr. Morris came, the gruff but familiar voice. "It's me, Raymond," he said, voice hoarse from the cold. "I've got something." A pig? It was freezing outside in the snow. And something else. I don't even know what it is. Small and weak. I think it's in trouble." There was silence for a beat. "Get them here now," Morris said firmly. "I'll prepare the room." "Drive safe, Ray." Raymond hung up and stood still for a moment, staring at the pig and the small bundled creature by her side. He was 82. His back wasn't what it used to be. Lifting even half the pig's weight could knock him out for days or worse. But there wasn't time for caution. Not now. Not with lives on the line. He wrapped the small creature tightly in his scarf, then turned to the pig. Grabbing the camping blanket, he bundled it around her as best he could. The wind slammed into him the moment he opened the shed door. Raymond braced himself. One arm under the pig's chest, the other tugging behind, he began to drag. His legs shook. Fire shot down his spine with each step, but the pig didn't resist. It groaned faintly, heavy and limp, and let him lead. Every inch toward the truck felt like a mile, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. He reached the truck and heaved the pig into the bed with every ounce of strength left in his body. Then he turned for the smaller creature, still swaddled in cloth. As he leaned down to lift it, his foot caught the icy edge of the drive. His legs flew out from under him. The ground slammed into his back. A flash of white pain shot up his spine. He gasped, wind knocked clean out of him. For a moment he couldn't move. The cold seeped through him, fast and punishing. No, not now. He clenched his jaw, teeth gritted against the pain, and forced himself to roll over. The blanket-wrapped creature lay just feet away, untouched, whimpering softly. Raymond groaned, pushed to his knees, and crawled to it. He pulled the bundle against his chest and rose, 1 foot at a time, his breath ragged. He staggered to the truck, opened the passenger door, and gently placed the creature on the seat. Then he climbed in behind the wheel, every muscle in his back screaming in protest. But he didn't stop. He started the engine and pulled out onto the road. The windshield wipers could barely keep up. Snow hammered against the glass like fists, and the narrow country road vanished every few seconds beneath a swirl of white. Raymond leaned forward in his seat, squinting, knuckles wide on the steering wheel. His back throbbed with every bump in the road. Whatever he'd done when he fell, it wasn't minor, but there was no time to think about that now. The pig lay bundled in the truck bed, unmoving but breathing. The tiny creature was curled beside him in the passenger seat, wrapped in Raymond's old wool coat, its breath fogging faintly against the window. "Just hang in there," Raymond murmured. "We're close." He took the long curve on Hollow Creek Road, too fast he knew at the moment the tires lost traction. The truck shuddered. The rear end began to slide. Trees blurred past his window. Raymond yanked the wheel, hard hammering. The truck skidded sideways across the icy road, fishtailed once, twice before catching on dry gravel near the shoulder. It jolted, then straightened. He didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. Then he forced himself to keep driving. Lights appeared ahead, dim through the snow. The small clinic building, a converted farmhouse tucked just off the road, came into view. He pulled into the lot, brakes squealing, and the moment the truck stopped, the clinic door swung open. Dr. Morris stood in the entrance in scrubs and boots, already rushing toward him. Raymond stumbled out of the cab, wincing with each step. In the back, he said, voice raw. Together, they hauled the pig inside first, then the bundled creature. Morris said nothing, just moved with practiced speed, barking orders to a young assistant who'd appeared in the hallway. "Set her here," Morris said, nodding to the padded table. He gently unwrapped the small figure and examined it with careful, practiced hands. Raymond hovered beside him, every muscle in his body wound tight. Morris finally looked up. "The little one's a fighter," he said. "Cold, malnourished, dehydrated, but it's hanging on." Raymond let out a shaky breath, and the pig. Shock and exposure, but she's stable. Did you find them together? Raymond nodded. She kept the little one warm. Guarded it? Morris blinked slowly, studying the creature again. Then he gently parted the fur around its muzzle. So, what is it, a stray dog? Sure, but this little guy isn't just any stray, he said. Look at the snout, the eye shape. He turned toward Raymond. You've got yourself a hybrid. Raymond frowned. A what? Dog and wolf, Morris said quietly. Probably second generation. Maybe it got left out by its owner when things got complicated, who knows? Morris said, shrugging. Raymond stared down at the small quivering figure wrapped in blankets in disbelief. She wouldn't have made it without the pig, Morris added. They don't bond like this without a reason. Raymond looked between them, the huge battered pig lying quietly on a heated pad and the half-frozen creature pressed tight against her flank. And he knew what he had to do. Raymond sat in the corner of the exam room, jacket off, spine stiff, watching the vet work. His breath had finally evened out, but the adrenaline hadn't fully left him. It buzzed in his chest behind his ribs, refusing to settle. The pig, now cleaned and warmed, lay on a heated mat, eyes half closed but still alert. She didn't take her gaze off the smaller creature tucked into her side. Not even for a moment. The little hybrid had stopped shivering. Her tiny chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, eyes closed, one paw twitching in sleep. She's going to make it, Dr. Morris said. So will the pig. She just needs rest. Hydration. Food? But that's a bond you don't break. Raymond nodded slowly. They stay together, he said quietly. Whatever they've been through, they get to keep each other. Morris gave a small smile. You thinking what I think you're thinking? Raymond didn't answer right away. He stood, walked to the table, and ran a hand gently over the pig's coarse fur. Her ear flicked in response, but she didn't pull away. He looked at the sleeping hybrid. Her ears twitched as she dreamed. I've got the room, he said, and I could use the company. It was still snowing the next morning when Raymond pulled into his driveway, the early sun glowing faintly through heavy clouds. The road had been cleared just enough to get home. In the back seat, the little creature stirred, blinking up at him with eyes that were no longer cloudy but bright and wary. Beside her, nestled into blankets, the pig dozed quietly, her breathing deep and slow. Raymond climbed out and opened the door. Come on, you two, he said softly. Welcome home. He carried them in one at a time, settling them near the fireplace, the pig on a thick old rug, the hybrid curled beside her. The warmth of the flames painted the room in soft gold. Raymond poured himself a mug of tea, the ache in his back still sharp but bearable. He lowered himself into his chair and sat in silence. Outside, the storm had passed. Inside, the old house felt full again. The pig opened one eye, then rested her chin gently on the creature's side. The hybrid blinked up at Raymond. He gave a small smile. You'll need names, he said, mostly to himself. And for the first time in years, as the fire crackled and snow melted off the windows, Raymond didn't feel alone. Not at all.